Laurie Huston's News for the Heart is dedicated to helping you give a voice to your own soul. Our hearts have the power to free us from pain and the struggles that keep us from awakening to our true essence. Join Laurie now as we delve into our heart and soul to find the path that will open us to the possibilities and lead us to the life we love to live.
And good afternoon. This is News for the Heart. Well, it's a brand new year, 2024. It's the second Tuesday of the month, which means I have my awesome co-host, Tracy McBurney, with me. We're going to talk about, I'm sure it's going to evolve, but we're going to start with emotional eating. And there's a reason that came up, and we're going to talk about that too. So yeah, welcome to the show, Trace, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. There's the laugh.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. We have to bottle it. We have to sell it.
You keep saying.
You actually think I'm kidding. Well, I have an idea. We're going to talk about that afterwards because I've said it enough times. Okay, so emotional eating. So yeah, so where to start? Let's start with emotional hunger. And how do you know the difference between, which is great, it's one of the things that I was teaching in class. How do you know the difference between emotional hunger and physical hunger? So it's kind of a cool concept. And if you're actually looking at my sheet, which is coming from something very old that I taught, it's all in color. The only color page that I have in the whole file. So emotional hunger is sudden. It's that sudden need, that sudden desire, I need sugar. I want sugar. I want something sweet. Now, the only other time that I could think that sudden would pop up in my life that I would want to teach in a class is the sudden desire for sugar that happens just after you finished your meal. And that can sometimes signal allergy. So I will say that. I'll say that that can sometimes signal exactly that allergy. You're grabbing onto the sugar and you're doing it almost right after you've finished eating, or you're already starting to think about the sugary thing that you want. And that can actually connect into you've just eaten something that you're allergic to. Right. And if you had the capacity then, because I like to teach that in class, if you had the capacity to know how your body responds in allergy, because we all have it. We all have a physical body way that the body shows us allergy, shows us intolerance. I love to teach it in class in the muscle testing. Then you'd be able to quietly go through each food that you just finished eating, and you'd be able to target that allergy.
Okay.
But let's get back to emotional eating. So emotional hunger is sudden, whereas physical hunger is gradual, and it's going to be the stomach rumbling, later growling. It's like it's just kind of going, hey, pay attention to me, I'm empty. Right, that gradual emptying of content. So the stomach's just kind of signaling that for you. So emotional eating is for specific food, the emotional eating for sugar, the emotional eating for a specific sugar, the emotional eating for the Dorito chips, something salty. I just want something salty. I just need something salty now, my kingdom for something salty now. And then your particular salty thing. The Doritos, the cheesies, the popcorn. Whereas physical hunger is open to different choices. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. So now what am I going to make for dinner? What do I feel like for dinner? It's almost like there's a slower process of you then being able to figure out, well, what am I going to eat now? Well, I've got this choice in the fridge. I've got this choice in the fridge. I've got this. I could order out. I could Uber Eats. I could spend $1 million Uber eating. Like, how is it that I'm going to fill this now? So emotional hunger is above the neck. So your mouth wants the taste of pizza or chocolate. Your mouth wants, your taste buds want. It's above the neck. Whereas real hunger is stomach. It's lower down. It's you engage with something lower down than what's going on in your mouth or what's going on just in your brain, in your head. Emotional hunger is urgent, where physical hunger is patient. Emotional hunger is paired with an upsetting emotion. It can absolutely be paired with an upsetting emotion, including something that's just happening because you're just watching a show. And you've just been spurned up by something, some sadness, some anger, some whatever, reminding you of something, bringing you into something government related, bringing you into something from a year ago, something grief related. It's got some emotional charge to it. And physical hunger occurs out of physical need. So it's you addressing the physical need. Emotional hunger involves automatic or absent-minded eating, just the unconscious eating, just the thing that you've chosen, the popcorn that you've chosen, and then you're just completely unconscious and you've finished one bowl, even though you said you were going to finish one bowl, and now you're on to two, and you're just unconscious about all of it. Whereas physical hunger involves deliberate choices and awareness of eating. Not just awareness of what you're eating or awareness of what your body actually wants, or taking the time to actually go, well, what is it that I want? But the awareness of it as you're in it. It's a more conscious process. Emotional hunger does not cease even when you're full.
Right.
Which leads us to the third bowl of popcorn. It leads us to eating the whole bag of Doritos, where there is no engaged. It's not even I'm not saying no. It's just I'm now, the whole bag's gone.
Right.
It's just I'm so lost in this process of emotional eating. I'm just lost. I've lost myself. I'm just totally disconnected. Physical hunger stops when satisfied. So it's not even I have to finish my whole plate of food because I'm following some unconscious rule. I stop because I don't want any more to eat. And there's no guilt around it. There's nothing. I just don't want any more to eat. I don't need anything more to eat, or I certainly don't need any more of this. But maybe I'm without guilt, I'm still heading back to the fridge because I really feel like I want some celery now. I really feel like I want something fresh now. I really feel like I want something else other than what I just made. It was wonderful, and then it needed to be finished. And then I'm off getting that salad, or I'm off getting those radishes because I'm not quite done. My body still wants this. Emotional hunger promotes guilt about eating, whereas physical hunger is based on eating as necessity, eating as nourishment. And so I thought it was nice to go through those, because then you can kind of go, okay, yeah, I can see this. And it is also a really neat thing to mention the correlation with the suddenness, the correlation to allergy. And it's interesting that as far as being the nutritionist, those are the two topics that I was always most engaged with. What's going on with people's emotional eating and what's going on with their allergies. And learning muscle testing helped me to be able to deal with both, to be able to be helpful to people with both of those things. Okay, so then as I was going through the file folder that I was thinking, is this now something to just throw into the garbage, as I reach and find this wonderful, colorful piece of paper and go, no, I want to talk with Laurie about this today. This is important. I think this is exactly where people might have been over Christmas. And in fact, I say specifically over the Christmas holidays, because there was a lot energetically going on that I don't even pretend to understand. There was a lot cosmically going on during that whole Christmas corridor, and I don't know whether you got tagged with it. There were a lot of opportunities for people to get triggered in their old stuff.
Yeah.
And I think Mercury was retrograde.
It was.
I mean, maybe it still is, but as I remember saying before, when Mercury's retrograde, you can get called back. You will get called back to unhealed, emotional, young stuff young stuff, whether it's young teenage stuff or whether it's young little child stuff, you'll get called back to old habits of the teenager, old habits of the young person, and therefore old pain. And, you're given an opportunity during any Mercury retrograde to make peace with the past that you're still not at peace with in the present. And so, boy, oh boy, did I have a few of those things.
Me too. Yep.
And they were powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Really do think in the powerfulness of this time frame, the 2023 to 2024. It's like, okay, people, you really need to let divine light into these. You really need to let that aspect of higher self be with you, engage with you, be helpful to you. Let your guides be helpful to you. Let the angels be helpful to you, because it's really not to be brought in as the regular agenda for 2024. It's like if there was anything that was going to be disappearing for me, it wasn't me disappearing, it was having to be engaged with those old ways of operating and old ways of seeing and old ways of seeing self and old ways of seeing relationship with some very foundational, important people as the way I was seeing it. So it was a willingness to not see that way anymore, a willingness to not filter eyes and ears and senses and reaching out and not reaching out the way of the past. It was the way to evolve from that. And we were given the opportunity to evolve from those earlier places. And was that going to bring forward some emotional eating? I think so. There was a lot of sugar around us, a lot of interesting sugar around us, and it was right around, like it was like it was right on the table, like we were anytime we were sitting down at the couches, it was there. It wasn't being moved somewhere else. It was there, available to be reached to. The lifeline, whatever it was there. It was, it was interesting.
Yeah.
And lots of chocolate, which I don't necessarily do so well on chocolate. And I think there's an intolerance allergy piece that has not been fully resolved. And so it was interesting to see, just one piece, just, the after eights. It was interesting. So, it brings me back to the first book that I ever really brought to my awareness around emotional eating. And it was Doreen Virtue. I think it was her first book, and it was called Constant Cravings. And it went out of print for quite a long time. It was not available to students for a long time. I would give them handouts of interesting pieces of information that she brought forward in this book. But it was really disappointing to not have that book available to students for a lot of years, because there was this great section at the back of the book. And it's the section where you can go look up what I call the demon foods, where you can go look up the problem foods, and she's got it in sections. So you can go look up ice cream. You can go look up, salty foods, potato chips, and she'll have different flavors of potato chips and different flavors of ice cream. And she'll have the emotional connection that she intuited that was linking into this. And it's been very helpful. It's been very helpful with clients to be able to, it's a new client. I don't know them. They're coming in with a digestive issue, or they're coming in, and it's been a very wonderful thing to be able to say to that person, well, what's your demon food? Like, what are the foods that if we put you on a desert island, we said you could never have that again. You're never going to have that again. Or you've got 1 week to have it and then it's gone for the rest of, what would be those foods? those candies, the whatever, and to just hear what they would have to say. And somebody might say, oh, the ice cream, like they just picked out the category of ice cream, not a specific flavor of ice cream. And I'd say back to them, soft or hard? And they'd be like, what a crazy question. This person that I don't know is asking me soft or hard. That's a little ridiculous, but I answer her almost instantly with hard, not soft, at which point I'm able to say to that person, oh, well, Doreen Virtue suggests that maybe the choice of hard ice cream versus soft ice cream has something to do with life has gotten a little hard, a little harder than you can deal with right now. So I would literally say to this almost stranger in my office, so what do you think about that? Is that where life is right now? Or when you're with the ice cream? Well, I'd never thought, that is kind of how life is, which is why I'm here, because, and it's wonderful to be able to have that, to just be able to consider that. I love Jennifer McLean, one of the people that has been one of my guiding teachers or mentors, would say that just to consider something is to elevate consciousness. Just to consider that concept. Is that where you are right now? Is life hard? Too hard? Too hard for you to be able to deal with? So I'm going to reach for that ice cream and tell myself that. And make sure that I give myself the opportunity to recognize that, maybe to have some compassion around that as I'm eating the ice cream. But most of us don't have that compassion. We have the judgment for the ice cream that we just chose, and maybe didn't even recognize that we chose hard. You chose hard. You didn't choose soft. You didn't run off to Dairy Queen and choose soft. You chose hard. And then she'll break it down into flavors. So you can actually, it's just wonderful to explore. She breaks it down to flavors like mint chocolate chip. Like that's what I wanted, but I didn't give it to myself. But I wanted to go to Baskin Robbins all through December. Mint chocolate chip ice cream. Did I give it to myself once? No. I wanted it. I thought about it. We walked past Baskin Robbins at Fairview in December at Christmas time, and it was just like, oh, a little kitty cone. Could I give myself a little kitty cone of that? But really, at the end of the day, was there a message there? Was there a message for me at that Christmas time of shopping that I really wasn't getting, that I didn't necessarily have the book, that I didn't sit with myself? Do I need her book? No, I could sit with myself. Is there a message there for me? That I keep thinking about the chocolate mint chip ice cream, specifically the chocolate mint chip ice cream, and that's what I want? Is there a message there for me? What's going on with me that I'm connecting potentially emotionally with that chocolate mint chip ice cream specifically? That's what she did. Those are the kinds of questions that she was asking. She was asking, what's going on with us? If I could be the person to get this information, to bring this forward for humanity, what's going on with us when we are emotionally craving that particular flavor? And maybe she did it for ice creams until she got bored with that topic. And maybe she did it with chips until she got bored with that topic. I don't know. I never asked her. I'd like to ask her. Because I'd like her to actually extend the versions. I'd like her to actually put can you give us more in the back of the book? Because sometimes it's easier to go to the back of the book than it is to sit with yourself and trust what's coming in when you ask that question, and to just let it come in. And sometimes we don't have a brain that just lets it come in. Yeah. We have a brain that's so linked into left brain, so dominantly left brain. So everything's about knowing, and everything's about planning, and everything's about goal setting, and everything's about analyzing. And everything's about that and making up stories, rather than just allowing for that open door to ask a question and then let the answer just come. Just come in. Come in from where? Come in from heart? Come in from the universe? Come in from divine intelligence? Well, where do you want that to come in from? And it is a skill set, and it's a really, really important skill set. It's a valuable skill set for us all to actually work toward, is to be able to work with a full brain engaged. So we're not planning out everything.
Right.
We're not setting goal after goal after goal, and that's all we're doing is setting goals and achieving goals and setting goals and achieving goals and planning everything and analyzing everything. It's like, oh my God, the left brain, so busy, so busy. Where's the space for the right brain? Does the left brain even recognize the right brain? Is the left brain just completely trying to dominate over the right brain process? Does the left brain even value the right brain? Right brain is the female part of the brain. Does the left brain give it space? Do we give it space? Do we value what can just come in? What we can just know? Do we give ourselves time to see what the liver has to say to us right now? What the pancreas has to say to us right now? They all have consciousness. But it's really important that that head brain be in receiver mode. Not make it up mode, not analyze it mode, not goal setting mode, receiving mode. It is the powerful way for us to maintain connection and unity with all parts of us, that we would receive information.
Right.
And then be quiet. Get quiet, get still, be in that receiving place, receiving from the universe, receiving from source life within us, receiving from divine intelligence, receiving from our higher self, receiving from our liver, receiving from our hurt heart, receiving from our broken heart, receiving from our soul. I mean, head brain is the receiver. It's got the pineal in it. It is the receiver of all wisdom. And we got here, and I started speaking about emotional eating. And I'm going to go back to speaking about emotional eating because they're so entwined.
Right.
I don't think we get out of this. I don't think we make our way out of this without head brain operating in receiver mode. I just don't.
Right.
Operating in receiver mode, not judging mode. So I told you a story. Yeah, you laughed, and I'll tell it again. And so you're going to hear it again. But it was a story that made this all really relevant for me. And it's a story that I told in class numerous times. So there, my husband and I were out at the movies. We like going to the movies. And this was a story from quite a long time ago. And he said to me one day, he said, "Dear, what's with M&Ms? What's with the M&Ms? Like I let you choose the treat. Like we share the treat. We share the popcorn, we share a drink, whatever it is." And so he said, "What's with the M&Ms? Like you've been choosing M&Ms for the last like month and a half." And he said, "M&Ms are okay, but they're not my favorite. And you seem to keep choosing them."
Right.
So of course, is he giving me a message about variety? He's like, "No, but what he's really saying is this is getting a little too self-sacrificial for me. And now I have to say something." So we of course chose the M&M because they were already chosen, but I went home and I looked up in the Constant Cravings book at the back to see if she had written about M&M specifically under chocolate, because my husband was right. I was choosing these and I was choosing them, and he brings that to my attention. And so I went back to look up M&Ms in the back of the book. And it was literally talking about the feelings of being sad. angry and sad, that you want to spend more time with your love partner, but you're spending so much time at work. And that was exactly right. And what Doreen Virtue talked about when she talked about when you're crunching things, there's a crunch to an M&M, right? So the crunch, the crack is anger. So when you're crunching things, when you're chewing things that are crunchy, even when you're crunching nuts, there's an anger component. When there's an emotional eating component, frustrated, angry component. So I'm choosing a chocolate that is a crunch chocolate. And then it goes soft into the center, right? Chocolate, she talks about hungry for love. She talks about it, the emotional eating connection to chocolate, hungry for love, not experiencing enough love, not enough closeness, not enough intimacy. So, of course, then she's putting that all together in that beautiful little package. And she brings that in intuitively, and it's all about work, doing too much work, getting not necessarily lost, but just too much work, too many hours in a day working, even if it's good work, and great work and passionate work, and it's just now too much. And now you're looking at this other thing that you love. You love your work, but you love this too, and there isn't any room for this other thing that you love so much. And in comes the M&Ms. And in comes the M&Ms again, and in comes the M&Ms again. And for 6 weeks or 2 months of moving, in comes the M&Ms again. This situation not resolved. Obviously, the situation not resolved. And me continuing to send this message to myself, continuing to express to myself my sadness and my anger and my frustration that this isn't being resolved. And in my particular case, it's like loving two things, and loving two things a lot, and not balancing them better. And like the fuck, I haven't balanced that better again. Right. And here I am bringing in the M&Ms. And so, sure, we can judge what we're doing. We can judge what we're doing. Absolutely. The brain's very good at judging. We've got a wonderful critical mind. We can pick ourselves apart. We can tear ourselves to shreds. Yeah, we could do that. Or I could recognize, my husband might be onto something. And yeah, I am choosing these a lot. And is there an emotional reason why I'm choosing them a lot? Well, let me see if Doreen's written that up and see if I can get any clues to consider. I'm not giving away my power to her. I'm just reading in the back of the book and going, oh, wow, I could feel it. I could feel it as I read it. It was like, oh my God, you nailed it. Totally nailed it. My emotional, troubled heart, frustrated heart, that I love all these things and I'm not getting it right. And I'm choosing more work than I'm choosing him. And why am I doing that? And why am I so imbalancedly doing that? And I'm not getting this right. So sure, I could judge it, but I didn't judge it. And I love Doreen Virtue that she wrote the book and gave me an opportunity to not judge it and to consider this thing called emotional eating differently. And to consider that it can very much be a connection to spirit, can very much be a connection to heart, not felt, not that we haven't spent so much time with our heart, that we haven't spent so much time with our gut. These are our feeling brains, that we're spending way too much time in our head if we're there judging. And yeah, so it's just lovely. So I, giving her a pat on the back for this. And I really wish she'd come back and write a bigger end to this book. And it's why I was so upset that the book went out of print for quite a long time. And I think now it is available in ebook. So even if they've taken it off the shelves as one that you can get as a physical book, I know that's available as an ebook. And it's wonderful to have that in your library, just even to have the back end of the book. This is now my third copy of the book because as a I don't like things being so messy. And I've been into that book so much to the back of the book that the two spines had broken. Like one of them, and like the whole back of the book had fallen off the front of the book. And even if you came into my office right now, you'd see this probably the most messy of all the books that I have. I never went back to reread the front of the book. I made notes on the front of the book. I was so engaged with the front of the book and the different categories that she had for nuts and how they fill emptiness, the category for crunchy foods versus soft foods. I made notes. I made notes and then I delivered those notes to students because the book wasn't available. Mm. I think this is a good book for people to put into their libraries. Really nice information about chocolate, not just emotional information about chocolate, but information that just lets us understand that chocolate gives us an opportunity to have all the flavors. Like all the flavors are available in good chocolate. The astringent flavor, the bitter flavor, the sweet flavor, the sour flavor, they're all available in one perfect package of a chocolate. So it may be why somebody's craving it. They're not craving it for an emotional reason. They're craving it for the taste buds. Mm. They're craving it for what the Chinese would call gu qi. Gu qi, like our need for balanced flavor, our need to have a balance of flavors in our diet. Like that's how we maintain good weight, is with good gu qi. And recognizing how important flavors are. Not just qi as far as our vitality, but gu qi. And so one of the reasons why we might be using chocolate isn't about emotional anything. It's about gu qi. We're not putting enough flavor into our foods. We're not putting enough spices into our foods. Enough essences, enough peels of an apple, not peels of an apple, but peels of a lemon zest, of a lime zest. These things are what keep us healthy and keep us vital and keep us energized. And she does bring that up, not just about the emotions of chocolate, but about the value of it and the nutrients that are actually in chocolate, the magnesium that's in chocolate, the phenylalanine that's in chocolate, the pyrazine chemical that's found in the odor of chocolate she brings forward that triggers the pleasure center in the brain. So even if you don't eat the chocolate, you might just need to smell the chocolate because maybe you're a little depressed. Maybe you're a little depressed and just passing by one of those Laura Secord chocolate stores can actually elevate something in the brain, in the pleasure center, right? She brings
still have those?
We do actually. There is a Laura Secord chocolate store. There's a Laura Secord chocolate store in, where did I just see it? I believe I just saw one right at the mall, the older mall at Eglinton and Victoria Park.
Okay.
There is a Purdy's chocolate store. I think that's it, at Fairview Mall. Mm. So we do still have these chocolate. And actually, Laura Secord, I believe, there could be a Laura Secord at Fairview too. Mm. So yes, they still exist. But it's a cool thing to know.
Right.
So anyway, this falling into this folder today, this comparative diets folder, and falling onto this page and falling into this conversation. It's really nice to go back and think about.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, this piece of paper that I fell onto today, it's old. It's part of an old class of teaching. I haven't taught comparative diets in a very long time. And yeah, it's nice to think about Doreen Virtue and to think about that book and to just even value that book and to give her a pat on the back. I feel like there's interesting news bites connecting to her right now, and we were just discussing it.
Yeah.
And I wish her well as she figures out her world, because she's walked away from some things that I'm not so sure are, she's needed to walk away from them, obviously. But anyway, I hope she finds her way back to center.
Me too.
And, like I said, this Constant Cravings, I think, was her very first book. And it's a good book to get your hands on if emotional eating is something that is an issue for you, as I think it is for all of us at one particular point in time or another. And she gave me the opportunity to really think about not judging these things, to really see them from a more elevated place. It's almost like your spirit is calling you. Your soul is calling you. Your essence, you're ununified inside of yourself around something, and that reaching out in that way, and that continuous reaching out in that way is sending you messages. And are you interested in hearing those messages, being with those messages, being with yourself? Are you interested in being with yourself?
Right.
And seeing what's going on with you? And is your head brain interested in being in receiver mode? Well, not figuring it all out from an analyzing place, but being in receiver mode. Does it even know it can be in receiver mode? It's almost like if you feel like you're a person that analyzes everything, sets all sorts of goals. I like goals, but life isn't just about goals, and it's just about achieving goals. But if you feel like you're that type of person, then maybe the first part of this is to sit down and say, hey, I have a left brain, a very functioning left brain, but I have a right brain too. I have a right brain too. So if my left brain has been busy smothering the right brain and not giving it space, if my left brain has been busy undervaluing the right brain, if I have been busy undervaluing my right brain, if my programming from childhood, if my programming from school, if my programming from family has not valued the right brain,
right,
has not valued intuition, has not valued connectedness with the universe, has not valued connectedness with all of the wholeness of me, then that's a problem. And that's a problem. And I am willing to address this problem. And I am willing to give my right brain space. And I want my left brain to give my right brain space right now. Right now. And I want my right brain, I want my left brain to be open to receiving information, just not analyzing information. And making up stories. And making up truths. And putting it all together. And strategizing it and planning it. I want my left brain to be open to receiving. Right now. Maybe for the next 10 minutes. Maybe for the next 15 minutes. Maybe for the next 5 minutes. Maybe if you're really, really, really type A personality, let's just be open to it for 2 minutes. That could be very stressful to a left brain. But we want a whole brain available to us, not just half a brain. See, that's the problem I feel that's going on right now with the medical world, which is very sad. The problem with it, and it's the colleges shutting the doors so much to doctors being able to have their whole brain, like permission for the doctor to have their whole brain engaged, their whole brain, their intuitive brain, as well as their left brain, which means giving the doctor permission to just know things, to just let something come in through knowing and trust that knowing and follow that knowing, which is kind of where the doctor profession was 50 years ago, 75 years, 100 years ago. That what comes in through knowing can be incredibly valuable. So even though it hasn't been double blind tested, because we have connection within us to source of all life and source of all information available to us every day. And that would mean available to the doctor, that would mean available to you, available to me, available to all of us. Coming in through that receiving place.
Yeah.
That's also the creative place. That's also the creative channel. The right brain is the creative channel. So when we're so busy planning everything and strategizing everything and goal setting, and it's like we need that creative channel.
Right.
That innovative channel, that visionary channel.
Powerful stuff.
It is powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And it is interesting to just bring it all into this one topic, which is emotional eating. But it's not just available to us through emotional eating. It's just available to us to be able to more fully investigate us and what's going on with us.
Yeah. Powerful.
And when we're not so connected to us, when we're not operating in that kind of more unified place, then emotional eating becomes something that we're going to get ourselves engaged with because we need to be engaged with it. It's necessary. It's part of a way of informing us that we're a little lost. It's a way of informing us that we're caught in some unresolved things that maybe we don't believe are going to be resolved, or that we don't know how to resolve. And we're too afraid to admit that we might need some help, or that we might need some guidance, or we're too high up at a company to think that we can have guidance or get guidance, or admit we feel a little defeated. So something else comes up in these notes from way back when that I think might actually be a little helpful. And it was titled Basic Simple Rules to Get You Unstuck Quickly.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought nice. Nice title.
And you were going to throw it out.
I was going to throw that out. No, but it's a nice title, right?
Yeah.
And so too tight. So if you feel like you're too tight, like too condensed, too contracted, and that would be high protein, salts, high fat, a strict macrobiotic diet. Somebody who's been on a macrobiotic diet for a very long time is going to be too tight, too contracted. But somebody whose diet is really high in protein, high in a lot of salt, high in a lot of fats, and that's the way their diet's been, then what brings you into a balance is loosening up, like loosening up. And so loosening up from a food perspective, if that's where you've been in high proteins, high salts, high fats, strict macrobiotic, your loosening up is going to look like salads and raw fruits and juices, even if that's for a day or two. Loosening up, like think loosening up. It's exactly where the Healy has been guiding me for a couple of weeks. Loosening up, moving the whole body, dancing, moving the whole body. So you've been in, the high salts or the high sugars, and so loosening up, moving the whole body, Tai Chi. If you're too expanded, people that are too expanded, they can be airy-fairy, they can be not so grounded, they can be right out there, like too expanded, and we need to contract in. So contracting in, too expanded would look like too much raw foods, too much juicing, too much sugar, too much expanded, too ungrounded, too out there, too not. Hello? And then contracted would mean beans and grains and cooked foods. Too much meat. So if somebody's had a diet with too much meat in it, then the more balancing would be to go vegetarian for a little while. A diet that's been strict vegetarian might move into something that's got some fish in it or some organic fowl. Too much fortification in your diet. Too many supplements in your diet. You need to simplify it, including move out the supplements for a while. In fact, it was interesting to be reminded when we're taking too much supplementation, that can also inspire cravings for sugars. And it's because you're trying to balance out the amount of cravings for foods, too much eating. Not just sugars, but too much eating. Too much supplementation can entice you to eat more food to balance the supplements that you've just put in your system. So it's kind of an interesting thing to know, and I've known it for a long time. Eating austerely, you can then be opened up to amplify yourself to be able to enrich binging a little bit. If you've been binging, then fast. So again, it's kind of just seeing where have I been? Right. Where have I been? And what do I want? I want to get unstuck. I'm stuck here now. And the body's not happy. So again, I'm kind of a neat thing to bring up. But it's kind of, again, non-judgment. Right. I'm not judging it. I'm just seeing where I've been. I'm seeing where I am. I'm seeing what I'm constantly now in the habit of. And is this actually good for me? Is this actually healthy for me? Have I become too contracted? Have I become too set in my ways? Is everything a little boring? Do I need more variety? Do I need more variety of colors? Like there's another piece of this is variety of colors. And the answer is yes. They all have a different nutrition to them. It can just even be about the colors. The color that you actually need to put in your body on this particular day. The color purple, the color, like what color your eyes gravitating to is exactly the color that you might need in food. For a day, for 2, for 3, for a week, for a month, and then not. And then I don't want that color anymore.
Right.
So it is about being open to being with ourselves, knowing ourselves, being okay with ourselves.
Yeah. Nice. I like it. It's a good show for the beginning of the year. It's a good show at any time, but it's a good show for.
Yeah, I thought it was good to revisit this.
Yeah.
To be of all of this.
especially when you were throwing it all out.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Yeah. When I was thinking,
You were cleaning.
I'm done with this. Well, yeah. Interesting.
Right. All right. Well, you've been listening to News for the Heart. We've been getting to the heart of what matters with Tracy McBurney and conscious cravings, conscious
eating. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next month. Talk to you then.
Love you.
Love you too.